All right, so we're finally on to my 1970 C20. I pretty much bought this because it was such a great deal and then parked it. You know, that seems to be my MO. It was just buying stuff and parking it. In this video, we're gonna pretty much walk around and figure out I would love your guys' help to actually figure out what engine is in here. It was sold with the guy was saying it was a 454. Apparently this came with a 400 and this is a camper special. Now, if you walk to the back, I can show you what exactly a camper special is supposed to be. This bumper right here actually slides in and out. Because if you have a big old camper shell monstrosity, you can slide this out as an extra step, and those slide rails are still in there. And it also has, or it had, gas tanks on the other side, so it has one of these doors on both sides. The whole body of the truck is actually pristine. There's a few dents and stuff like that up here, but if you've seen these trucks before, this thing looks pretty much almost perfect. Pretty much perfect. I do need to get into to see if there was actually like a repair here or what's going on. It does feel like there should be some kind of fender body mount right there. But, so here's another one of those doors. All right, so let's go underneath to see what's going on right here. Because if you look down here, maybe something right there. But let's see. Oh. Did it have like a bed box? Because like, look at, it's doubled up right there. It doesn't look like there was any kind of like real damp. Did they just skin it? So they didn't want the bed box right there? I'm having trouble understanding why somebody would have done that. Did they hide it under the trim? And they just put on a new piece right here? But none of this looks bad. I don't know, I'm confused. I guess let me know down below what you guys think is going on right here. But it's doubled up. But the other side doesn't look like that. But there's no major crash damage on it at all, and that's kind of one of the reasons I got it. The other thing too is it has new rims. I'm not sure what manufacturer these rims are. It also came with like new tires. So let me show you under the barn. So you can see in here, it's got some Go Fast parts. It's got an Edelbrock Performer 2.0 intake manifold. It's got kind of horrible looking Edelbrock heads. I'm not a fan of those. Mr. Gasket Breather. It does have headers, and these are long tube headers. It does have disc brakes on the front. Power steering. So this truck originally, I'm guessing, had air conditioning, but the air conditioning compressor and all of that's long since gone. I was thinking about doing an aftermarket one. I think it was I'll put the link up here where it kind of gets rid of all that, and the firewall's a little bit more tidy. Also back here, it looks like it has a MSD distributor, MSD coil. So in the past, we've tried to figure out what engine this was, but if you look right back here, trying to figure out the engine block number, yeah, it is just like, this valve cover is pretty much almost touching the firewall. And then there's a number on this side, and we'll walk you around trying to figure out what this number is. I've looked at this number before, and I have no clue what it actually means. All right, so here's the number right here. It looks like it says CF33, and then it looks like it's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 6. I've looked over the internet, and I can't figure out what this is supposed to mean. I'm not sure if this got remanufactured or if it was a machine shop rebuilt it and that's their own internal number. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So the only surefire way to actually figure out what's going on or what we actually have is to figure out what the block number is on the back, right where the transmission plugs in on the bell housing, to figure out what's going on right there, because this didn't make any sense to me of what that actually meant. And of course it doesn't have a battery. And this actually looks like a fairly small battery tray, so that should be fun. So yeah, lots of things to be excited about. I believe it has Holly on it. Oh yeah, look at that big beast. So it doesn't seem like it was done bad. It just, I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is. And I remember when I was driving it, there was kind of like a little bit of a, kind of felt like a little bit of a valve tick. So I'm gonna need to figure out that valve tick. So this will be the project. We're gonna go through the whole thing. We're going to probably tune it up, change the oil. It also has a transmission oil leak that I'm gonna have to figure out, because it leaks enough to where it gets hard to move because there's not enough fluid. So I think we're gonna have to figure that one out probably in the next video, but we should get underneath it to see what transmission we actually have. All right, so we're underneath. Here's those long tube headers. There's the engine oil pan. It looks pretty nice, not all banged up and beat up. But here is the pan for the transmission. It has the telltale signs of it being a Turbo 400. Just by the shape, I'll put up a picture right now so that you can see the different shapes of different oil pans. And sort of looking like back here is where the leak is at, which is almost not what you would expect. Like, you kind of just hope it's the pan gasket, because that would be pretty easy, but this little support bar right here kind of has a lot of drips on it, so that looks like it'll be fun. But as you can see, the frame, you know, just because, you know, Southern California, Arizona vehicle, it's pretty nice. Here's the, I guess the block that you would suck from one gas tank compared to the other. That's all been cut off and gone. Some of the body mounts need some love, but everything looks pretty nice. It's pretty decent. Whoever initially built this feels like they took a lot of care into it, except for one aspect that I never really liked about this truck, and I'll show it to you right now. So it's right here. Now, a lot of people don't like the gas tank being inside of the cab, and it's understandable. And there's kits that are made that would put the gas tank kind of where the spare tire would be hanging back here. All right. So this is where they put the tank. And it's not a bad spot. I'm not criticizing for the spot, but how you fill it is atrocious. So they put a fill inside of the bed, and it does a hard 90, and then goes somewhere over there. So if you can get it to fill, I filled it before where it just starts dripping from up there. It just starts dripping everywhere. And I'll show you a clip right here. One thing to also mention while we're under here, they do have an anti-sway bar, so this thing actually handles pretty well for a truck. I've noticed that right when I got it. So I was pretty happy about that, but let me show you how the top gets full. So you saw a hard 90 to a hard 90 to a hard 90, but now look at, there's another 90, and then right here is another 90, and then I know what you're looking at right here. This is a boat fill. So this is what you would use for a boat. So I personally would rather get rid of all of this, because you can't go to a gas pump that just kind of it has like a lot of pressure. You have to feather it, and it still is a pain to get that full, because the top of the gas tank will start leaking however it was hooked up. Not to mention, the other fun aspect about this is, if you think about the gas tank being right here, and keep in mind this is a C20, so it's the long bed, it feels like your gas tank is another 10 feet away compared to where it would have been for the engine. And keep in mind, this is a mechanical pump, so it's sucking from another 10 feet away. So that does not add up to be fun either. So they did give me a block-off plate to weld into here and do all the body work and stuff like that. But I'm more inclined to probably just buy the original gas tank with the gasket and put that back on. Because this whole thing right there is just not working for me. And of course, like any good collector truck, you always want to park it underneath a pine tree. That's always a good thing. But one of the other really awesome things about this truck is you need to see the inside of this. Yes, the inside seems pretty much done. I don't know if I'm in love with the color, but nice dash pad, steering wheel's okay. It's got carpet. I mean, everything on this inside looks pretty nice, pretty sweet. Pretty excited about it all. So I think what we should do now is, I think what my ultimate goal for this video is to get it started, pull it out, pull it up here so that we can really walk around, look at it, blow off all the pine needles, and put a bunch of degreaser back there and blow it all off with as much water pressure as I can muster. Because I've sent one of those little tiny cameras, those probe cameras, I've sent it down there, and there's so much grease packed up on the top of the bell housing that I can't see anything. Like, I can literally not see anything of how to actually, the number, anything like that. And I would like to know what exactly this is. Is it actually a 454? Is it the original 400? You know, what's going on? But by the exhaust manifold, right, or the header, you can actually see it's definitely a big block, and just by the size of it, it's definitely a big block. So I'm not concerned about it being a big block, but what's it from? So that would be cool to know, but I'm going to get it, or at least going to try to get it started now. All right, so I got a battery. Let's get all this stuff out of the way. And I'm pretty sure this battery's too big. Yeah, it doesn't really fit into this housing. Let's see. Okay, well, that's on there. All right, let's see. All right, well, that's on there. All right, well, that's on there. All right, so I'm just gonna turn it over to see how it sounds, see what's going on, and see what happens. You know, one thing I will say is it kind of sounds like the starters kind of misaligned slightly, like maybe it needs some starter spacer plates. So I think what we'll do is we'll get some gas and fill up the bowl. All right, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's enough to get it kicked off. That was a lot of gas, but I guess this is a big block. Well, it's a runner. All right, so as you can see, the carburetor is leaking quite a bit. It kind of feels like the float is stuck, so the needle is stuck open and it's coming out the vent tube at the top. So we're gonna try the shade tree, since we're under the shade of a tree, technique first, which is just to grab a hammer. Now, you're not trying to like bash this thing in, you're just kind of tapping it to hopefully get that needle to seat or break free, because one of the reasons it'll start shooting out of there is because the fuel pressure comes in and it just kind of overwhelms it. If this doesn't work, I don't think in this video that we can actually drive it, because if you can't tell, like, there's gas all over here. There's gas leaking down the back. There's gas all the way down the sides. If it just lights, it's just gonna light the whole thing up, and now that wouldn't be safe. So we're gonna try that, and if that doesn't work, then I guess we'll have to maybe end it here or go to underneath and actually try to figure out where the transmission leak is coming from. And then we'll rebuild this whole carburetor next week, and we'll figure out where that transmission leak is and maybe fix that in the week after that. But let's try this first to see if it'll free up. But it, for sitting as long as it did, it starts right up. And that old gas, man, them big blocks love that old gas. All right, so we're on the other side of the engine now, or pretty much the other side of the carburetor. And you get to see inside the intake right there, it is just sopping with gas. It is dripping from multiple locations. I kind of feel like it's just going to be safer to just get a rebuild kit for this, because yeah, it's still dripping. So I don't think it's just coming from one point. It feels like it's coming from a bunch of different points. So I think that it's probably going to be safer to figure out what carburetor this is, get the whole rebuild kit, and then probably next week we rebuild it so that way we can pull it forward. But that does not mean that we are not going to try to pressure wash the back there to try to figure out what engine this is. And I feel like it would be really good to at least try to figure out where the transmission is leaking. All right, so I spent a little bit of time researching the carburetor on this Holly. Let me try to get out of your way. Part number is right there. I have a picture of it right up. And what's interesting is this is a 750. So this is a whole lot of carburetor for this engine. So I'm hoping that they put in some kind of cam or something like that. I mean, it kind of sounds like it has a cam. I don't know if it's like a street thumper cam or what's going on there, but it sounds like it definitely has a cam, but that's a whole lot of carburetor for if this is a stock engine. So I'm hoping it's not stock. What we're gonna do now is I need to get that on order, and I need to figure out what is the best route to get it here, whether it's Summit or Amazon. I just wanna get whatever can come here the soonest so that we could start rebuilding that next week, hopefully. But now, before we try to figure out what engine this is on the back, because I'm gonna hose a bunch of gunk grease dissolver, hopefully, I'm gonna get underneath to try to figure out what is going on with the transmission and where it is exactly leaking. All right, so here we are. So the back of the truck is this way, front of it's that way. So this is the back of the transmission. It seems like it's pulled up right there. So I don't know if it's this rear nose cone that is leaking, because that would be unfortunate, because the drive shaft would have to come out and then we'd have to unbolt it if we were planning on trying to leave the transmission inside the vehicle, which would be ideal. So what I'm gonna do is, it's got an old shirt here, I'm gonna wipe this down right here. Good thing with oil leaks, no rust. Look at all that nice shiny metal. So I don't know if it was leaking from the pan and just kind of migrating back. So what I'm gonna do is wipe all this down, maybe even spray some carb cleaner back here, clean it all up, and then hopefully I can see where the drips are starting to form from. Okay, we're all cleaned up. Right here is where the drips were forming, so it's hard to tell whether it was coming out of the gasket and kind of just working its way down here. So nothing's currently leaking, so it's either only gonna leak when it's running, or there's not enough left in it to actually leak, so that would be fun. This pan actually seems pretty deep. So that's a good sign. See how like deep it looks. After I cleaned it off, I did coat the pan in WD-40, so hopefully it doesn't flash rust or anything like that. So what I'm gonna do now is just leave this and come back to it to see if any drips start to form and where they're forming from. I did look at the end of the nose cone, right where the transmission is plugging in. Nothing over there seems wet. It's greasy, but not wet, how this side was actually wet and greasy. But if anybody has any thoughts, feel free to put them down below. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go, let's see if I can get you, we're gonna go up here. So here's the oil filter. We're gonna go up there, hose it down, and hopefully try and get some numbers so that we can figure out what exactly this engine is. All right, so I decided to start it one last time, and now it's fine. So it's possible that all the gaskets sealed the carburetor. Sounds pretty crispy. Smells a bit rich though. There's the fuel gauge. Nothing leaking on this side. So it feels possible that the gaskets in the carburetor got swelled up from the gas that we were pumping in, and then now it's not leaking and it's kind of running how it ran before. I'm not sure if you could see the steam kind of coming out of the carburetor. The bowls are not holding a good seat against the, so the float's going up and it's not holding a good seat, because before it would maintain some pressure between right here in the fuel pump. It would maintain some pressure. Right now it's not, and after I turned it off, I can literally see steam coming out and the pressure gauge going down. So yeah, I don't think we're getting out of rebuilding the carb, personally. All right, so I got some gunk engine heavy duty degreaser stuff. So we're gonna shake this up. Pretty much where we're trying to spray is right there. So I'm gonna hope that I can get in there. We're gonna let this sit for like 10-15 minutes, what it says, and then we'll send that hose. So I've covered the carburetor because obviously I don't want any of this in the carburetor. So we're just gonna try to focus it down there. Hopefully it'll do what it does. I might even try to spray it up from the bottom as well. Hopefully with the spray nozzle, because it says you're supposed to scrub this, but I can't even get my hand down there. Like right there. Like the valve cover right there, my finger can't even go down there. So that, like, that's how tight it is. So it's less than 1/2 inch of a gap right there. So it definitely feels like this engine was kind of shoehorned in here. So I'm gonna hose it down from here, and then I will try to maybe do it from the top or from the bottom as well. I'm getting the feeling like this only likes to be sprayed up and down. All right, so I'll spray it from the bottom as well. And then hopefully the next clip you're seeing is us sending down a small camera to see what the numbers are of this engine. All right, so timer went off, so we're ready to hose it back down. I'm gonna try to focus this in the area that I need and try not to get the rest of the engine. We'll see though. Okay, so we were able to get the small camera back in there, and it looks like it's 1401544, and it kind of looks like another 5. So I was able to do all the degreaser, but then I did have to stick my hand up through the bottom to try and get it all wiped out. But we'll look up the number and see what it is. All right, so I got the block casting number right there, a screenshot of it. So I'm using a catalog Chevy V8 casting numbers. So I'm digging through this. So we're at big block. And what's kind of cool is, as you can see from the casting number, mine starts with a 14. Look at this. They all start with 3s. Look, it's all 3s. And then look at the very last one is a 14015 445. It is a 454 from 75 to 87 truck light duty. And that's exactly, according to the picture that we were able to get, it is a 14/01/54/45, which is the same as that. So I don't know what the front stamping actually means, but that does mean that that is not the original engine to that. But it does mean, according to the casting number, it's at least a 454. We'll have to see if it's been bored out or not. I'm inclined not to trust the carburetor, since it seems like all the gas got in there and swelled up all of the gaskets. That doesn't seem like it's good. So I think that we should rebuild it. If they didn't put a cam in it, like, it sounds like it has a little bit of a cam, maybe just a street thumper or something like that, but it sounds like it has a cam. That is way too big of a carburetor, so it's probably running incredibly rich. It smells rich around it, so we're gonna need to lean that up. But if the carburetor was already sticking, stuff was already blowing out of it, we'd probably be fighting a losing battle. So I think that we should clean out the carburetor first. All right, well, that's a win. At least it's running. I did pull it back and I moved it forward. We at least know what engine it is. A 454 from 1975 to 81 or something. So yeah, I think that I definitely want to rebuild the carb, even though everything is sort of working now. Because when you get behind it, it really smells like it's running kind of rich. And I don't want to be chasing my tail as I'm tuning it to find out some of the passages and stuff like that. When I first got it, I remember the fuel pressure gauge on there would actually hold pressure for a while. So in between the fuel pump and the carburetor would hold pressure because both floats would be closed. And now it just immediately goes down and you could see like steam and vapor coming out of the inside of the carb. So I think that it'd be better to go through, flush it out, so we're starting from a good point. So that might be interesting for you guys to see. And I'm gonna try to get that in next week. I cleaned around the transmission so that we should see where it's leaking from, so that hopefully we know what is leaking and how it's leaking. But if you wanna see any more content on this, please subscribe. If you have anything that I'm missing or anything that you'd like to see done to this, subscribe down below. Like, I would like to really paint it, do the whole works. I kind of like the stance it's at right now, not lowered, not raised, but kind of somewhere in between. It's just got a good stance. I like the wheels, they're okay. So if you have any comments, leave them down below, but thanks for watching.